Have you ever wondered why SAMCRO chose the Dyna Super Glide over every other Harley-Davidson model? What if I told you that this decision wasn't about brand loyalty, but about hidden camera tricks, insurance nightmares, and a modification that Harley-Davidson actually hated? The bikes you saw tearing through Charming held secrets that even hardcore Sons of Anarchy fans never discovered. Today we're counting down 20 weird facts about the Dyna Super Glide from Sons of Anarchy that will completely change how you see this iconic TV motorcycle. From purposely damaged engines to stunt doubles that weren't human, these revelations might just blow your mind. So buckle up, hit that like button if you love motorcycle clubs and TV history, and let's ride into the secrets of SAMCRO's Iron Horses. Number 20. The insurance company demanded this specific model. The Dyna Super Glide wasn't creator Kurt Sutter's first choice for Sons of Anarchy. He originally wanted the entire cast riding Softail customs because they looked more aggressive on camera with those hardtail style frames and fat rear tires. But the production's insurance company absolutely refused to cover Softails for the planned stunt work. The problem was the Softail's hidden rear suspension. While it looked like a vintage hardtail, the suspension was actually tucked under the frame. This design made the bikes incredibly unstable during high-speed maneuvers and panic stops. Insurance actuaries had data showing Softails had higher accident rates during film production compared to other Harley models. The Dyna Super Glide became the compromise everyone could live with. It had conventional dual rear shocks that were visible and predictable. Stunt coordinators could calculate exactly how the bike would behave during jumps, slides, and crashes. The frame geometry was also more forgiving for riders of different skill levels. Remember, not every actor cast in Sons of Anarchy actually knew how to ride a motorcycle when they got hired. The Dyna's lower seat height and more upright riding position made it easier for novice riders to fake competence on camera. This practical decision shaped the entire visual identity of the show for 7 seasons. Number 19. They destroyed 72 motorcycles across 7 seasons. Here's something that makes Harley enthusiasts physically ill. The Sons of Anarchy production demolished 72 Dyna Super Glides during the show's run. That's not counting bikes that were damaged and repaired. We're talking complete write-offs that went straight to the crusher. Each season required between 8 and 12 sacrificial motorcycles for crash scenes, explosion sequences, and stunt work that couldn't be faked with camera tricks. The production maintained a standing order with Harley-Davidson for replacement Dynas throughout filming. They negotiated a bulk discount that Harley reluctantly agreed to, after recognizing the massive publicity value the show provided. But here's where it gets weird. Harley initially refused to sell bikes they knew would be intentionally destroyed. The company's marketing department worried about the optics of their motorcycles being crashed and burned on national television every week. Kurt Sutter had to personally meet with Harley executives in Milwaukee to convince them the show would actually boost sales by making Harleys look rebellious and dangerous. He was right. Dyna Super Glide sales jumped 38% in the show's 2nd season. Harley dealers reported customers specifically asking for bikes that looked like the ones from Sons of Anarchy. The destroyed motorcycles became a necessary sacrifice for both the show's authenticity and Harley's bottom line. Each wrecked Dyna was carefully documented, photographed, and its VIN number recorded for insurance purposes and tax write-offs. Number 18. The engines were deliberately detuned for actor safety. Every Dyna Super Glide ridden by main cast members had its engine deliberately detuned from factory specifications. The stock twin-cam 88B engine produced around 70 horsepower and 85 foot-pounds of torque. That's plenty of power for experienced riders, but potentially lethal for actors pretending to be bikers. The production's head mechanic, a guy named Mike, who'd spent 20 years building race bikes, modified every hero motorcycle to produce only about 55 horsepower. He accomplished this by installing restrictors in the intake manifold using softer camshafts, and reprogramming the fuel injection system. The modifications weren't obvious to anyone watching the show. The bikes still sounded aggressive and looked fast on camera, but the reduced power meant actors could crack the throttle without accidentally doing an unplanned wheelie or losing control during emotional scenes. Charlie Hunnam, who played Jax, later admitted he had no idea the bikes were modified until the 4th season. He thought he had just gotten really good at handling a powerful motorcycle. The production kept quiet about the modifications to maintain the show's tough guy image. Stunt bikes retained full factory power, and professional riders handled all the genuinely dangerous riding. But for dialogue scenes, cruising shots, and simple point A to point B riding, the detuned engines kept everyone safe while maintaining the illusion of outlaw bikers on powerful machines. Insurance costs dropped significantly once they implemented this system. Number 17, Jax's bike had a secret counterbalance system.
Jax.
Charlie Hunnam's main motorcycle, the one Jax Teller rode in close-up dialogue scenes, contained a secret counterbalance system that no other bike in the production had. The modification addressed a specific problem that surfaced only during the pilot episode. Hunnam is 6 feet 1 inch tall, but only weighs about 170 pounds when he's not bulked up for a roll. The Dyna Super Glide weighs 663 pounds wet. That weight distribution created a problem during filming. Every time Hunnam stopped the bike and put his feet down, the camera crew could see him struggling slightly to keep it upright. It looked awkward on camera and broke the illusion of Jax being a confident, experienced biker. The solution was brilliant. The production's fabrication team built a hidden counterbalance system into the frame using a series of precisely positioned lead weights. They added weight low in the frame near the center of gravity, but also created a pivot point that made the bike easier to hold at a stop. The system added about 35 pounds to the motorcycle, but made it feel 50 pounds lighter when balancing at slow speeds. Hunnam never knew the exact specifications of the modification. The mechanics just told him they'd made some adjustments to improve handling. The counterbalance system appeared on every bike designated as Jax's primary throughout the series. Stunt doubles rode completely stock Dynas because they had the skill to handle the weight naturally. Number 16. The exhaust pipes were illegally loud. Those aggressive exhaust notes that made Sons of Anarchy sound so menacing, completely illegal under California emissions and noise regulations. Every Dyna Super Glide in the production ran straight pipes with zero baffling or sound dampening. The stock Harley-Davidson exhaust system uses catalytic converters and carefully tuned baffles to meet strict California noise ordinances. Those factory pipes produce about 80 decibels at idle and maybe 95 under acceleration. The straight pipes on the show bikes screamed at 115 decibels at idle and peaked around 128 when someone twisted the throttle. That's louder than a chainsaw and approaching the threshold of physical pain for human hearing. The production needed special permits from California's Air Resources Board to operate these motorcycles on public roads during filming. They also had to notify local residents 3 days in advance whenever they planned to film motorcycle scenes in residential areas. Multiple noise complaints were filed throughout the series run. In one incident during Season 3, Stockton police actually stopped filming and cited the production for excessive noise violations. The fines totaled $12,000, but FX paid them without argument because the authentic sound was worth every penny. Kurt Sutter insisted on the straight pipes despite the legal headaches. He understood that sound is 50% of a motorcycle's presence on screen. Those illegal exhausts made every entrance, every ride, and every club gathering feel dangerous and rebellious. The straight pipes became as essential to the show's identity as the leather cuts and club patches. Number 15. Kim Coates learned to ride, specifically for this show.
I play Tig Trager, Sons of Anarchy, and you are watching Born to Ride.
Kim Coates, who played Tig Trager for all 7 seasons, had never ridden a motorcycle before Sons of Anarchy. Not once. He'd never even sat on one. This terrified the stunt coordinators and insurance company because Tig was written as the crew's most reckless, aggressive rider. The character was supposed to ride like a maniac. Having a complete novice play that role seemed impossible. Coates spent 3 months before filming, started taking intensive motorcycle training. He worked with a professional instructor 6 days a week, starting on small dirt bikes and gradually working up to the Dyna Super Glide. By the time cameras rolled on the pilot, Coates could handle basic riding and looked competent on the bike, but he still couldn't do anything remotely dangerous. For the first 2 seasons, Coates' stunt double appeared in roughly 70% of Tig's riding scenes. Anytime the script called for aggressive cornering, high-speed riding, or proximity to other vehicles, the double took over. But here's where it gets interesting. Coates became obsessed with motorcycles during production. By season 3, he'd bought his own Dyna and was riding it to the set every day. He practiced during lunch breaks and took advanced riding courses between seasons. By the final season, Coates was doing almost all his own riding, except for the truly insane stunts. He'd transformed from someone who'd never touched a motorcycle to a genuinely skilled rider. And that progression is actually visible if you watch the series carefully and know what to look for. Number 14, the primary drive system, was modified for quick repairs.
To match the handlebars.
The Dyna Super Glide uses a primary drive system with a chain running from the engine to the transmission inside a sealed primary case. It's a robust system, but repairs require draining oil, removing dozens of bolts, and typically take about 2 hours. That's acceptable for a personal motorcycle, but disastrous for a TV production where every minute of downtime costs thousands of dollars. The show's mechanics completely redesigned the primary case on every hero motorcycle. They created a quick access panel system using DZU's fasteners instead of conventional bolts. The entire primary cover could be removed in under 5 minutes. They also installed an external oil pump that could drain and refill the primary case in 90 seconds. The transmission was modified with heavy-duty bearings that reduced wear and required less frequent adjustment. These changes meant a primary chain could be tensioned or replaced in about 15 minutes instead of hours. This modification saved production countless delays. When something went wrong during filming, mechanics could diagnose and fix problems without sending the bike back to the shop. They kept spare primary chains, gaskets, and seals in toolboxes right on set. The quick access system proved its worth during a scene in season 4, where a primary chain snapped during a take. Mechanics had the bike repaired and back in front of cameras in 23 minutes. Kurt Sutter was so impressed, he gave the entire mechanical crew a bonus. The modified primary system appeared on roughly 30 bikes throughout the production run. Number 13, Bobby's bike, weighed 100 pounds.
Oh, shit. Really?
Fuck! Where's Tig?
More than everyone else's Mark Boone Jr., who played Bobby Munson, rode a Dyna Super Glide that weighed approximately 100 pounds more than any other motorcycle in the production. This wasn't punishment or a joke, it was practical necessity. Boone Jr. is a big guy, standing 6 feet tall and weighing around 280 pounds during filming. Put him on a stock 663-pound Dyna, and the suspension completely collapsed. The bike's rear shocks would bottom out constantly, making the motorcycle handle unpredictably and look awkward on camera. The rear end would sag so badly that the bike's lines were completely wrong. The production solution was comprehensive. They reinforced Bobby's bike frame with additional steel gussets in high-stress areas. The front forks received stiffer springs and heavier weight fork oil. The rear shocks were replaced with heavy-duty units normally found on Harley touring bikes like the Road Glide. They even upgraded the wheel bearings and installed a reinforced swing arm. The additional modifications added that 100 pounds, bringing the bike's total weight to around 760 pounds. But the reinforced suspension could handle Boone Jr.'s weight without sagging or bottoming out. The bike maintained proper rake angle and looked proportionally correct on camera. Boone Jr. appreciated the modifications because the bike actually handled better for him than a stock Dyna would have. The reinforced frame and suspension made it more stable and confidence-inspiring. The production maintained 3 of these heavy-duty bobby bikes throughout the series to ensure they always had one available. Number 12. The speedometers were replaced with dummy gauges.
Babe, I'm not the wisest man, but right now won't last.
Whenever the power's turned on and off. The reason for that is
Every close-up shot showing a Dyna's speedometer and tachometer displayed completely fake gauges. The production removed the actual functioning instruments and replaced them with dummy units that could be controlled by a prop master off camera. This decision solved multiple problems simultaneously. First, California law prohibits filming vehicles exceeding posted speed limits, even on closed roads. But dramatic motorcycle scenes need to look fast. The dummy gauges could show 80 miles per hour, while the bike was actually doing 35 in a 45 zone. Second, the fake gauges eliminated continuity nightmares. Editors could cut between different takes without worrying about matching speedometer readings. The prop master could dial in whatever speed the scene required. Third, the dummy gauges looked better on camera than real instruments. They had larger, more readable numbers and brighter lighting. The needles moved smoothly instead of bouncing around like real gauges do. The system used servo motors connected to a wireless controller. The prop master could make the needles sweep smoothly, bounce dramatically during engine revs, or hold steady at any reading. For wide shots where the gauges weren't visible, the bikes retained functional stock instruments. But any close-up of the instrument cluster was always a dummy unit. The production maintained a box of about 30 different dummy gauge faces covering speedometers, tachometers, and various warning lights. They could swap them in minutes to match whatever the scene required. Some showed metric instead of imperial units for international versions of the show. Number 11. Clay's bike had extended highway pegs that appeared and disappeared.
Here at my club, and my town, and my family.
Ron Perlman's main motorcycle, as Clay Morrow had a set of extended highway pegs that mysteriously appeared and disappeared throughout the series. These weren't continuity errors. They were deliberate modifications based on what each scene required. Highway pegs are forward-mounted foot pegs that allow riders to stretch their legs on long rides. They're comfortable, but can interfere with certain riding positions and camera angles. Clay's bike actually had 2 sets of highway peg mounting points welded onto the frame. The pegs themselves could be installed or removed in about 90 seconds using quick-release pins. During scenes where Clay needed to look relaxed and comfortable, the highway pegs were installed, and Perlman would rest his feet on them in that classic cruiser position. But during action scenes, chase sequences, or any riding that required aggressive body positioning, the pegs were removed. With his feet on the standard controls, Perlman could lean into turns and shift his weight properly. The removable system also prevented injury. In crash scenes or stunts, those extended pegs could catch on pavement or other vehicles, causing the bike to behave unpredictably. Stunt coordinators insisted they be removed for any dangerous riding. If you watch the series carefully, you can actually predict what kind of scene is coming based on whether Clay's highway pegs are present. Pegs installed means dialogue or cruising. Pegs removed means action is about to happen. This detail showcases how much thought went into every aspect of the motorcycles beyond just their appearance. Number 10. The saddlebags were never actually attached. Those leather saddlebags hanging off every SAMCRO bike looked permanent, but they were actually held on with Velcro and magnetic strips. Not a single saddlebag in the entire production was bolted or permanently mounted to any motorcycle. This decision came from the stunt coordinator after a near disaster during the pilot episode. In the original setup, they had mounted saddlebags using traditional leather straps and quick-release buckles. During a planned crash scene, the stunt rider went down exactly as choreographed, but the saddlebag caught on the pavement and twisted the bike violently. The rider suffered a broken collarbone, and filming shut down for 3 days. After that incident, every saddlebag was modified. The backs were lined with industrial-strength Velcro that mated to matching strips glued onto the bike's rear fender. Small neodymium magnets were sewn into strategic positions to keep everything aligned and prevent flapping during riding. The system was brilliant. The bags looked completely authentic on camera and stayed in place during normal riding. But in any crash or impact, they'd instantly separate from the bike, preventing the dangerous twisting action. Actors could also remove and reinstall the bags themselves between takes without needing tools or mechanical assistance. The production maintained over 200 different saddlebags throughout the series. Each had unique weathering, patches, and personal touches appropriate to different characters, but every single one used the same Velcro and magnet attachment system. This invisible modification prevented countless potential injuries while maintaining the show's authentic outlaw biker aesthetic perfectly. Number 9. The clutch cables were reinforced after Katie Seagal's accident. After Katie Seagal's real-life motorcycle accident in 2014, between seasons 6 and 7, the production implemented a mandatory upgrade on every single Dyna Super Glide. Even though her accident didn't involve a Sons of Anarchy motorcycle, it terrified Kurt Sutter enough to demand comprehensive safety improvements. The most significant change involved the clutch cables. Stock Harley-Davidson clutch cables are reliable but can fray or snap under extreme conditions or improper maintenance. A snapped clutch cable means instant loss of control because you cannot shift gears or disengage the transmission. The new cables were aircraft-grade stainless steel with Teflon liner, rated for 5 times the braking strength of stock cables. They were also equipped with redundant safety cables running parallel to the primary cable. If the main cable failed, the backup would engage automatically, giving the rider enough clutch function to safely stop. These cables cost $370 each compared to $65 for stock replacements. Across the fleet of motorcycles, this represented a massive expense, but Sutter didn't care. He'd nearly lost his wife and wasn't taking chances with anyone else. The upgraded cables also received weekly inspections by certified mechanics. Any cable showing even minor wear was immediately replaced regardless of remaining service life. This paranoid level of maintenance might seem excessive, but it reflected how deeply Seagal's accident affected everyone involved with the production. The final season had 0 mechanical failures related to clutch systems, vindicating the expensive upgrades and obsessive inspection schedule. Number 8. Opie's bike was the lightest in the fleet. Ryan Hurst's motorcycle, as Opie Winston was specifically built to be the lightest Dyna Super Glide in the entire production fleet. This seems counterintuitive because Hurst stands 6 feet 5 inches tall and weighed around 240 pounds during filming. You'd expect his bike to be reinforced like Bobby's, but the production had different concerns with Opie's character. The writers envisioned Opie as the crew's most talented pure rider, someone with natural ability who made riding look effortless. To achieve this on camera, Hurst needed a bike he could handle with exceptional ease. The lighter weight made the motorcycle more responsive to his inputs and easier to maneuver during complicated riding scenes. The production stripped every possible ounce from Opie's primary bikes. They replaced steel components with aluminum wherever structurally acceptable. The battery was a lightweight lithium-ion unit instead of conventional lead acid. They used titanium bolts throughout the chassis. The exhaust system was fabricated from thin-wall stainless steel. Even the paint was applied in thinner coats to save weight. The cumulative effect dropped the bike's weight to around 595 pounds, nearly 70 pounds lighter than stock. Combined with Hurst's size and strength, this created the exact visual effect the production wanted. When Opie threw his bike into a turn, or powered out of a corner, it looked aggressive and completely controlled. Hurst appreciated the modifications because the lighter bike was genuinely easier to ride, especially during the long night shoots that sometimes required 20 or 30 takes of the same riding sequence. Number 7. The rear fenders were fiberglass replicas. Every rear fender on every hero motorcycle in Sons of Anarchy was a fiberglass replica, not the stock steel Harley-Davidson component. This modification happened after production discovered that steel fenders create problematic light reflections during filming. The curved steel surface would catch studio lights, street lights, and even sunlight in ways that created hot spots and glare on camera. The cinematography team tried different solutions, including dulling sprays and matte clear coats, but nothing worked satisfactorily. The steel simply reflected too much light. The prop fabrication department made molds from stock Dyna rear fenders and began producing fiberglass copies. These replicas were finished with textured gel coat that absorbed light instead of reflecting it. They looked absolutely identical to steel fenders, but photographed dramatically better under all lighting conditions. The fiberglass fenders had additional benefits nobody anticipated. They were significantly lighter than steel, which improved handling slightly. They also didn't rust or corrode, important for bikes that sometimes sat outside in California weather between filming. When a fender got damaged during a stunt or accident, the production could simply pull another from inventory instead of ordering replacement parts from Harley-Davidson and waiting for delivery. The fabrication shop produced over 150 fiberglass rear fenders throughout the series run. They became so good at the process that even Harley-Davidson mechanics couldn't identify them as replicas without physically touching them. The textured finish perfectly mimicked painted steel, and the mounting points aligned with factory specifications. Only the weight gave them away. Number 6. Half-Sack's bike had training wheels. During the pilot,
Come on, Jesus, man. Just pretend it's carve your own steak night at Sizzler.
Johnny Lewis, who played Kip, Half-Sack Epps, couldn't ride a motorcycle when he was cast. He'd never learned. The production didn't have time for extensive training before the pilot started filming, but they needed Half-Sack on a bike for several scenes. The solution was ingenious and slightly embarrassing. They built a set of retractable training wheels that could be lowered when the camera wasn't looking. These weren't children's bicycle training wheels. They were heavy-duty hydraulic outriggers designed by the special effects team. Small wheels mounted on telescoping arms could be raised and lowered using a hydraulic pump system. When Half-Sack needed to ride in a shot, crew members would lower the outriggers. Lewis could then ride the bike with complete stability, unable to tip over. The moment the director yelled, "Cut," the outriggers went back down. For wide shots where the training wheels would be visible, Lewis's stunt double took over. The system worked perfectly for the pilot and first few episodes. Lewis practiced riding during breaks and eventually gained enough skill to ride without assistance. By episode 5, the training wheel system was removed entirely, but the fabrication team kept the hydraulic outriggers in storage, and they came in handy again in season 3 when a guest actor needed to ride but lacked experience. The training wheel system represents the kind of creative problem solving that happened constantly behind the scenes. When production needs conflicted with reality, the crew found ways to make it work without compromising what appeared on screen. Number 5, the fuel tanks held only 2 gallons. This seems impossible because Dyna Super Glides have 4.7-gallon fuel tanks. But the hero motorcycles used in close-up filming ran with custom fuel tanks that held barely 2 gallons. The production made this dangerous modification for a specific reason involving fire safety and stunt work. Standard gasoline is incredibly dangerous during crashes and explosions. 4 gallons of fuel creates a serious fire hazard and complicates insurance coverage. The special effects team built custom fuel tank internals that reduced actual capacity to about 2 gallons while maintaining the external appearance of a full-size tank. The remaining space was filled with closed-cell foam that couldn't hold liquid. This foam also prevented any fuel from sloshing around, which improved handling slightly during aggressive riding. 2 gallons provided enough fuel for a full day of filming with room to spare. The bikes were never ridden more than a few miles during any shooting day, and most scenes required just a few hundred yards of actual riding. The reduced fuel capacity made everyone safer without creating any practical limitations. For long-distance riding shots on highways, the production used different motorcycles with standard fuel tanks. But for anything involving stunts, crashes, or proximity to pyrotechnics, the 2-gallon tanks were mandatory. The modification required custom fabrication for each tank. The foam had to be precisely cut to fit the tank's irregular shape, while leaving room for the fuel pump and sending unit to function normally. Each custom tank took about 8 hours to build and cost roughly $1,200. Number 4. The front forks were filled with different weight oil for each actor.
This one is good.
He's gonna take Liberace's bike.
Although they may be Harley-Davidson Dynas, they are all aesthetically different.
Every actor in Sons of Anarchy had their front forks filled with custom-weight fork oil matched to their body weight, riding style, and comfort level. This wasn't the production being unnecessarily precious. It was essential for maintaining consistent handling across different riders. Charlie Hunnam's forks used 15-weight oil, relatively heavy, because he preferred stiffer suspension that gave precise feedback. Kim Coates ran 10-weight oil that provided more compliance and forgave his less experienced riding technique. Ryan Hurst used 20-weight oil, extremely heavy, because his size and strength allowed him to muscle the bike through turns, where lighter riders needed suspension, compliance. The different fork oils meant each actor's bike handled exactly how they expected it to, reducing mistakes and building confidence. The production's head suspension specialist maintained detailed records of every bike's fork oil weight, service intervals, and any changes made. He could rebuild forks in about 45 minutes and kept pre-measured bottles of every oil weight ready. Between seasons, every fork was completely serviced regardless of mileage or condition. Fresh seals, new oil, and thorough inspection ensured nothing failed during filming. This obsessive attention to suspension tuning paid dividends and reduced crashes and improved performances. Actors who felt confident on their motorcycles rode more naturally, made fewer mistakes, and delivered better performances. The suspension specialist estimated his custom tuning prevented at least a dozen crashes throughout the series, run by ensuring each bike handled predictably for its specific rider. Such a simple modification with such significant safety and performance benefits. Number 3. Chibs bike, a mat, a secret left side shifter.
I idea to put the little Scottish flag stitched into the saddle.
88 cubic inch, twin cam motor.
Tommy Flanagan, who played Chibs Telford, rode a Dyna Super Glide with a secret modification that violated every motorcycle convention. His bike had a left side shifter instead of the standard right side foot shifter. This bizarre setup happened because Flanagan is left-handed and learned to ride motorcycles on British bikes in Scotland. British motorcycles traditionally had gear shifters on the right side, opposite of American bikes. When Flanagan started riding the Harley, he kept instinctively reaching for a shifter that wasn't there. After several near crashes during the first week of filming, the stunt coordinator made an executive decision. They fabricated a custom linkage that moved the shifter to the left side, where Flanagan's muscle memory expected it. The modification required completely re-engineering the shift linkage. The shift shaft had to be extended across the engine, through a custom bearing support, to a left side shift lever. The routing was incredibly complex because it had to clear the primary drive, the exhaust system, and the frame without interfering with anything. The final design took 3 attempts before it worked reliably. Flanagan's bike became a bizarre hybrid with left foot shifting and right foot rear brake, backwards from every Harley-Davidson ever built. But it worked. Flanagan could ride confidently without thinking about which foot went where. The modification remained Chibs' secret throughout the series. Nobody mentioned it in interviews or behind-the-scenes features. Only the mechanical crew knew about the reverse shifter. For wide shots and stunts, Flanagan's double rode a standard motorcycle because professional stunt riders can adapt to any configuration. Number 2, the series finale. Bikes were identical twins.
What did you do? I'm protecting my club.
The motorcycles used during the series finale weren't just similar, they were absolutely identical twins built specifically for Jax's final ride. The production commissioned 2 Dyna Super Glides built to exact specifications with matching VI numbers, matching engine numbers, and identical modifications. This redundancy was necessary because the finale required dangerous stunts that might destroy the bike, but also needed pristine close-ups that couldn't be filmed until the stunt work was complete. Both bikes were built simultaneously in a private shop over 6 weeks. Every component was duplicated. They used consecutive serial number parts wherever possible. Both bikes received identical paint jobs applied by the same painter on the same day using the same batch of mixed paint. The weathering and distressing were carefully replicated by the prop department using photographs and measurements to ensure perfect matching. Even the tire wear patterns were identical, achieved by running both bikes through the same series of maneuvers. On the day of filming Jax's final ride, one bike was designated for stunts while the other remained pristine for close-ups. The stunt bike survived the filming surprisingly well, suffering only minor damage, but having the backup eliminated any risk of the production being unable to complete the finale. After filming wrapped, both bikes were kept in climate-controlled storage. One eventually sold at auction for $280,000. The other remains in a private collection, its existence barely known outside the production team. These identical twins represented the ultimate insurance policy for the show's most important scene. Number 1. The bikes increased Dyna Super Glide. Sales by 300%. Here's the craziest fact about Sons of Anarchy's Dyna Super Glides. The show single-handedly revived a dying motorcycle model and turned it into Harley-Davidson's best-selling Dyna platform. Before Sons of Anarchy premiered in 2008, the Super Glide was considered boring and outdated by most riders. It was Harley's budget model, the bike you bought when you couldn't afford a Softail or touring bike. Sales were declining every year. Harley-Davidson was actually considering discontinuing the entire Super Glide line. Then Sons of Anarchy exploded in popularity. Suddenly, everyone wanted the exact bike SAMCRO rode. Harley dealers reported customers coming in with screenshots from the show, demanding bikes that looked identical to Jax's or Chibs motorcycles. Sales of the Dyna Super Glide increased 300% between 2008 and 2012. The bike went from Harley's worst seller to competing with the Sportster for entry-level dominance. Harley-Davidson's marketing department was caught completely off guard. They'd initially been reluctant to support the show, worried about associating their brand with outlaw criminals. But the sales numbers didn't lie. Sons of Anarchy made the Dyna Super Glide cool again. Harley eventually embraced the connection, offering factory options that mimicked the show bikes. Sadly, Harley discontinued the entire Dyna line in 2017, replacing it with the Softail platform. But for nearly a decade, Sons of Anarchy kept the Dyna Super Glide alive and thriving. Those 72 destroyed motorcycles generated hundreds of millions in sales, making them the most valuable crashed bikes in television history. The Dyna Super Glide became more than just a motorcycle. It became a character in Sons of Anarchy, modified, customized, and sacrificed for 7 seasons of outlaw drama. These 20 weird facts barely scratch the surface of the engineering, creativity, and occasional chaos that kept SAMCRO riding through charming streets.